Hello and a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Speed High Virtual Boardroom. I am your host, Sukriti Adavanshi, and I'm excited to bring you a conversation that's not only critical for the HR experts down there, but also for all the tech talent out there. A technical hiring process is defined by, devising a structured recruitment plan to identify, screen, and hire the best, coders or programmers for your organization. Tech hiring professionals look for coders that not only meet their job needs, but are also, a good fit for their organization purposes as the business, requirements are changing that we are seeing these days. A successful technical recruitment campus drive is the key to building a strong tech workforce that would actually integrate innovation and agility to one's organization. While scouting the best tech talent from the campus drive, recruiters' primary challenge is attracting the right talent. So, what should they do to optimize the tech hiring efforts to achieve the best results? The answer is to work an effective hiring plan that is backed by innovation and advanced technology. From shortlisting to the top institutes to assessing and selecting the right candidates to offering them the competitive salary packages and engaging them till the onboarding, campus hiring comes with distinct set of challenges. But companies can easily resolve these challenges by structuring their hiring processes, in a very, good manner, or maybe just strategizing it. Today, we are going to talk about and touch base all the factors that one must consider while evaluating and recruiting talent from the campuses. Our experts are going to talk about the challenges they face, the industry shift from degree-centric to knowledge-based hiring, and a lot more. So let's go ahead and find out who our eminent guests are and what they want to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, I am elated to have Rinku Rastogi, Senior Director and Head Talent Acquisition from Globant India, Padmini Giri, Associate Vice President Talent Acquisition, GlobalLogic, Hemant Banerji, Talent Acquisition Director, DXC Technology, Pankaj Khanna, Senior Vice President and Head Revenue Assurance and Head HR Business Process Solutions, Coforge. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, and I am so overwhelmed to have each one of you and look forward to a great conversation. Before we move and talk the real essence of our discussion today, I would request you to please introduce yourselves and give me the opening remarks that what you are looking forward in terms of the conversation today. So we'll begin with you, Hemant.
Sure, Sukriti. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes.
Okay. So Hemant Banerji, I'm the Director and Head of Talent Acquisition with DXC. Been in the industry for close to 22 years. This is my first HR role. I've been through and throughout with the business, from delivery to business operations, managing, end-to-end life cycle of resourcing and delivery. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. This is a very important topic. This is the best time to be in recruiting, honestly, right? Because we are virtual. There's so much surge in demand. This is a employees market. So, the learnings are amazing right now, right? So I think it's the right topic and the right time for the discussion. Yeah, I will just start with that.
Thanks, Hemant. Padmini?
Hi, all. Really, it's a great time to be in recruiting, like Hemant said. And I've been a career recruiter. I started my career with sales, but I moved to recruiting very shortly. Then I moved, I worked in some large IT firms, but I've never seen this kind of hiring before. I've not seen this kind of surge in requirements before. It's taught us a lot during this period. It's taught us to be a lot more agile. It's taught us to be a lot more nimble-footed. For closing requirements, of making offers. And I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation to see what is it that some of our peers are doing in the industry and what is it that we can learn from the others as well.
Thanks, Padmini. Pankaj?
Hi, Pankaj Khanna. I look after the people supply chain in Coforge amongst various responsibilities. Have been in the industry for almost 3 decades, both in the hardware and software side of the industry. While I heard Padmini and Hemant say that it's a great time to be in recruiting, I can assure you that it is the worst time also in recruiting. I think the joining ratios have never been this low in the last 30 years. I was thinking that even in the Y2K boom also, it was better than the 35 and 30% and 40% joining ratios we have. It's a tough time. It's while it's an exciting time, it's a very tough time. I think the recruiter attrition is probably higher than the attrition of the people in the IT industry. And I laughingly say this, right, that you say that, earlier the joke was, Java J and I'll get 10 lakhs. Now you say T stands for talent. That's it. Nobody's bothered. They are willing to give you 25 lakhs also in terms of it. But anyway, that aside, yes, it's an interesting time. I think interesting because the pandemic has really changed the world. And I think it's not something, it's obviously the most corrupted and used line nowadays. But I think the funny thing is that while uncertainty, VUCA, we have heard all those places. But I think the problem right now is that I have no idea. And that's what my personal view is. And I also see others also giving this commentary that, this can happen, that can happen. I think it is still up for debate. As we are speaking right now, there is a surge in Vietnam, Hong Kong, Korea, Philippines, and then there's a surge in Delhi also of COVID, right? So we don't even know. And here everybody is thinking about coming back to the office. So having said so, the good to be here, good to be a part of a discussion with the recruitment experts, with the people around in the tech team, in the tech gig team, and of course with all of you. Hopefully, one hears reactions, hears suggestions, and we learn along the way. Thanks, Priti.
Thanks, Pankaj. I'm sure your perspective here as an opening remark also has added a little twist to our conversation, which I'm very, very much looking forward to. So thank you so much for that. We'll talk about each and every aspect of, touch basing the real pain areas and what exactly the market looks like in terms of good or bad or maybe neutral that we're trying to address. Rinku, we'll move to you.
Hi, everyone. And my name is Rinku Rastogi, and I had the talent acquisition function here in Globant, working in the capacity of a senior director. And all my life, I've done recruiting for 19 years. And I've worked with companies like Cognizant, Sapient, SunGuard, which is known as FIS now. And in this 19 years, like what Padmini mentioned, right, we have never seen this kind of crazy market, right? So we don't know whether to hire recruiters more or the talent more. The war is crazy, and because obviously you need to have the right offerings, but along with that, we just have to keep trying different things to see, because while we say money is the only thing what matters, but when somebody is having the same package, then which company that person would choose will decide on the basis of multiple other things, right? So that's what we try to differentiate. So I think I'm definitely looking at when we talk in different forums, we hear the similar challenges, but yeah, we have a lot of experts. So I'm really looking forward to hear that how they are dealing with these challenges in the current times. So looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Rinku. Now, before we actually move ahead, audience, please note that our guests are going to take your questions in the end. In case if you have any of the questions that you would want to know and you would want to actually address, want these experts to address, please feel free to add them in the chat window and I'll take them up once we're done with our conversation. Okay, so now moving to the main discussion, ladies and gentlemen. In today's competitive market, as we all spoke, we strategically invest in our campus recruitment plans. And through this initiative, we reach the best candidates where they are and when they are the most open to new opportunities, of course. Our goal is here to educate, attract, and sign on the industry newcomers at the exact time when they're looking to enter the workforce. And sometimes you get your hands on to the passive job seekers also, but not most of the times, let's say. So to begin with, when we talk about the strategy part or maybe the implementation part, I would want to know that what are the challenges you faced, when you were trying to identify or assess candidates in bulk, right? So let's begin with you, Pankaj.
I guess and I'm struggling to give a straight answer, but let me take a stab at it in terms of two different approaches. I think there was a time probably about 10 to 12 years back, and obviously campus hiring and bulk hiring is associated with campus. So I will look at campus fresher engineer hiring, whatever it is called. Then the other side of it, we have all been hiring at the campuses. The process remains the same. You look at the college, you look at the name, you look at the background, and then you don't know what else to do. So you give a test and you say that fine, I'm going to hire you, whatever it is. And of course, then some of the mass hiring companies, some of the top IT tier companies took it to a new level by saying that if you are an engineer from this college, I'll not even waste my time giving you a test. I'll just go ahead and hire. And then I will worry about the assessment later on. So we have gone through that, that phase. And of course, I think today, the only thing I think Rinku mentioned about it in passing from the recruitment angle that, money matters. But I guess at the campus, the only thing which matters is the entry level compensation, right? It's very difficult to go beyond that. But the interesting thing is, and the reason I gave that, small blurb before the entire thing is that not much has changed at the campuses. And especially in the tier 2, tier 3, I think the quality of the faculty as well as the quality of people who are interacting with the corporate teams has probably remained stagnant. It's only the tier 1 colleges which have gone up the ladder. So I think the assessment has been is different because of that. And again, with that qualifier, I'll add that today's assessment, I think, and we also do that in Coforge, that we have moved away from any specific assessments at the college. I think we are only looking for two things. One is in terms of analytical ability, and second thing is coding. And coding, it doesn't mean that you have to solve something. It is just that how well do you do a code, or how well you are able to interpret a code. And then we say that we'll assess and do everything after after the people join in. And I think that is a model which I believe has probably been a more generically used one right now. Of course, for product organizations, and I'm sure at Globant or GlobalLogic, or maybe in some parts of some of the engineering corporations, the hiring will be a little bit more evolved than the plain simple IT services hiring which I'm referring to. But if I look at the bulk side of it from a lateral thing, and I think Sukriti and the team, I think that's another interesting one. There was this 2 months back, like somebody asked me a question that if I'm in a tier A company, right, and this is one of my delivery guy asking me a question, that if I have worked in a tier 1 company, right, the top 5, top 10 IT services company, and I don't mean any disrespect to the other, I'm just making this as an anecdotal stuff, that if I'm there, tier 1, 3 years, best in class training, and I'm Java, right? Why the hell do you want to do an assessment? So it struck me that time that, absolutely right question. So what we have gone ahead and now done is we have said that these are the list of 20, 25 odd companies, no assessment, as long as you have, been there for 3 years. You have not hopped, you have been on live projects, we'll go ahead and hire you. But obviously, it is easier said than done. The candidates are not so stupid. So we do make them go through some 10 minutes of interaction. So that is one significant change which I think has happened. And incidentally, I'm not saying that Coforge is the innovator here. I have seen actually somebody share this with me in one of the leading organizations, that is a part of the overall approach. I think the second thing, and after this I will shut up so that it doesn't seem too long-winded, is the fact that the interviewing as a service is now become available outside. Earlier, it was supposedly a more evolved avatar, that it was an expertise-led thing. But I think nowadays, people like you and me, or anybody can actually go register yourself as an interviewer in one of the platforms. And we can all be a part of this merry making of making monies. People are available. 1 hour, you make $1,500. But I think that is something which is really taken over the industry. It is so common now to look at some of the interviewing platforms, and they have been burgeoning all across the country. And that, I think, has been a very interesting change. I would say again, till 5 years back, it was a strict no-no for any organization to go outside and have an external interviewing help taken. But now that has completely changed. So I would say that is that would be the summation on both the bulk side of the thing, hiring, Sukriti, which you said, and assessment in terms of both the campus and the lateral side. And now I'll take a pause if there's anything as a follow-up, or when anybody wants to add from Hemant, Rinku, or Padmini.
Thanks, Pankaj. I think that was the very first one and the very impactful one, I should say. Let's know what other challenges different that our speakers have to share. Rinku?
Yeah, sure. So I would talk more on the lateral part, right? So I feel biggest challenge today is the skill gap. And the skill gap is not only because obviously, everybody is hiring, so as Globant, but when I say skill gap, it is, let's take one step backward to see, right? We all understand that the business is changing and we are going towards disruption where, we really, really need to understand that, how this is going to change and how the business is going to perform in the coming 6 months or even 6 years down the line, right? So the game of outsourcing, is changed, right? So companies are no longer looking forward for companies, who would provide them Javas, .NETs, and so on and so forth, right? So it is more to do with, people who can provide them end-to-end solutioning, people who are ready to solve business problems. So that shift, right? So looking for that independent talent, right? Who is not really looking to do a piece of work, what is assigned, but also looking at the bigger picture, right? So today, if you ask someone, their identity today is that, I am so and so, and I have 10 years of Java experience and 15 years of .NET, but that should not be your identity, right? Your identity should be more than the skill set. Your identity should be that you are someone who can, who is ready to solve business problem, who can look at, end-to-end solutioning. So that kind of mindset change, right? And so people who think that, how they can be relevant, not now for the skill set, but for future also. So finding that kind of talent is the biggest, challenge what we face, because as Pankaj mentioned that, skill set, you can teach, you can, even if you know that, the person has certain years of experience, would be able to do it through training. And every company would be aspiring to hire people with great aptitude. But what the challenge, what we face is to how to get the right attitude, right? Because if you have the right attitude, aptitude follows, because at the end of the day, all the skills are the tools which enables you to solve the business problem. So that's, where we try to innovate, we try to come up with different interviewing skill set, where we are using a lot of behavioral aspects in our interview process, so that, we can check the fast learning ability of the candidate, we can check on the team player ability, because those are also some of the skills which are going to go long way. So I will talk, more about, what are the kind of, programs we are running to focus on the aptitude along with attitude. But yeah, I'll take a pause and let others also share their views.
Sure, Rinku, I'm looking forward to those elements because I'm sure, as you mentioned, the approach in which ways matters. You might have all the skills, but if you don't have the right approach, you will never be able to crack it. So it's as simple, as that. Hemant, we'll move to you.
I'll keep it short, Sukriti. I think Pankaj and Rinku brought up very pertinent points. So we have this problem of skills, and skills are evolving, every quarter, every 6 months. And you have the roles which needs these skills. So people will have skills and they need to fit into roles which deliver the projects or the outcomes that our customers are looking for, right? Now, having this marriage and delivering it at scale, I think it's a problem that the industry has, right? Earlier, we used to have, the global delivery model. We used to have the project teams in pyramids, but those norms are being shattered by the, the new delivery models, which are more agile around DevOps, etc., right? And each and every one has to scale up very, very fast in terms of skills and the role that they play, right? So how do we create an engine in the industry which does this at scale so that we can minimize the skill gap that we have? I think that's the biggest challenge for me.
Thanks, Hemant. I think that was very direct and the kind of important also when it comes to the strategy and the planning
Yeah.
of recruitment. Padmini?
So thanks, Pankaj, Rinku, Hemant. Very thought-provoking. What I would like to state over here is there's an opportunity. The war for talent is so high right now. There's an opportunity for everybody in this market today. Whether there's a skill gap, whether they have the right qualifications, whether they have the right pedigree, the talent today is able to find jobs basis whatever they possess at this point in time. So I'd like to put a complete contra point over here. Has the bar dropped today in our hiring process because of the talent war that we have today? Are we willing to take in people with skills which are lower than what we really need? Has our and what Pankaj mentioned about interview as a service, there is a shortage of technical panels as well, because everybody's so busy with their deliverables that interviewing comes in as a disturbance to their day-to-day work today. So if you're going outside, how well are they calibrating our interviews which are as per our requirements? When we do these assessments, online assessments, how well are these calibrated to find the right people for us? Because today that skill gap exists, and people with all gaps are able to find jobs. And that's why I think we'll have to do calibration of some of these interviewers very closely. We'll have to do the training, and what Rinku talked about in terms of aptitude. The training that we give to some of these not exactly matching skill candidates should be done much better, and that's how we'll be able to bridge that gap.
So, skill gap is one of the major challenges apart from what Rinku and Pankaj have mentioned. And I'm sure, when it comes to bulk hiring, this becomes more challenging for us. Pankaj, I would want to go back to you and, just help me understand that hiring top-notch talent can be a difficult task, as we are, talking about. There are talented individuals everywhere, you look for, but how do you exactly shortlist the actual best from the rest? I mean, there are certain things that we have to define. The industry has witnessed a shift from degree-centric hiring to skill-based hiring. How do you see this entire evaluation inclusive of finding the best from the rest?
Sure, I would say that Padmini's point as something just to build upon. I think the it's not about the levels or the bars having fallen being negative. I think it is a necessary shift which the industry has adopted to, considering the kind of business opportunities which are coming our way, and I think we know about it as a part of the the overall last 2-3 years, especially in the pandemic thing which has happened. There is very clearly a demand for set of people. I think Rinku alluded to it by talking about attitude and analytical skills, or in terms of looking at an approach which has got a domain centricity or which has got a technology centricity. So in effect, what is there? But the challenge still persists, and I would say this, that it's very difficult to assess anything in half an hour or 1 hour. I think there are classic, if I go back, and I think I'm a product of Wipro. When I say product, because when back good old days, Wipro used to be invested in a lot of things from a variety of angles. And I remember that one of the programs we used to do long time back was interviewing skills, where they were taught, and we were taught that how do you open, how do you go to the meat of the interview, and how do you close. And it was said that a best interview is a good interview, or effective interview is one which lasts for 55 minutes exactly, broken up into stages. And obviously there were studies around it. But I always say this, that as the volumes have picked up over a period of time, 30 years back, what Wipro thought was volume hiring was 10 in a month. Right now we are talking 1,000 in a month, and that too sometimes seems smaller. So obviously one needs to discern, and one needs to take a call. So if you are looking at volume hiring, interviewing as a option outside, obviously nothing can replace a judgment or a decision. And the two things which we have done let's say in the last couple of years is that we have defined industry-wide test, and it is nothing to do with, let's say, Coforge as an entity. We say that if you're good at ABC, generic thing, you are good for us, number one. Number two, is there a culture element involved, cultural element or a thing involved? We probably say no, and but we substitute it by saying that I'm looking for, let's say, for a company like where we are, what our size and our ambition, that we are very, very focused on aggressive hyper growth. So we are just looking at those as a defining element. There's no cultural attribute here. The last part of it is that, we do tend to tell our interviewers that go ahead, you'll make your mistakes. We'll probably live with a 5 to 10% mistake level. And what do we do with that after that is not that, we are going to penalize you. We are just going to be clear that, we'll either do upskill, reskill. Worst case, obviously, after the number of opportunities given, we can exit out a person wherever it is. But I think the moot point, again, if I look at as to what the assessment can be, I would go back and say that, it's a generic knowledge of technology supplemented by something which is unique to you. If you're working for 5 years in a banking account, do you know something about banking as an ecosystem? So I think that's an example. And the last bit of it is that, like I said, it is more personal to, let's say, Coforge, that we are looking for people who can be a part of a hyper aggressive growth, which basically means probably working a little bit extra hours, which is a part of the role and part of the job, and be ready to stretch, beyond a point. So very subjective in the end, but yes, those things define us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Pankaj. I think you've set up the context of my next question very well. When we speak of, the tech workforce entirely, it's important to find the right balance between roles requirement and the candidate's technical skills, the competency that the person owns. So, Hemant, I would want to know from you that how do you think that these technical evaluation tools like Speed Hire actually, are the right fit, the new fit for the campus requirements when we are talking of bulk hiring here?
So, from my perspective, I think when we look at when we evaluate people, I think the core skills that we need to look at is the aptitude and attitude, as Rinku rightly said. Because one thing is for sure is that in the career, and I'm talking about more bulk and campus, they need to continuously learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? Because that's how fast-paced technology world is, right? And given the surge in the requirement that we have, and given the fact that we are virtual, traditionally, if we adopt our old school recruitment methodology for this bulk, I think there's a big challenge, and that's why where this technology platforms are helping. So if I look at from my perspective, the 4 objectives that these platforms actually help us with. The first one is managing the volumes in a very, very efficient way. So if we don't have this, right, large numbers of virtual selections in the given time, maintaining the candidate connect, very, very difficult to do in traditional world, given we are in pandemic, right? The need of resources to manage these volumes. You will need a lot of effort, a lot of more people to do that, right? So that's where these platforms are actually helping. Second is need for speed to move fast with the assessment and selection without compromising on quality, right? So finding the right talent from such a diverse pool and a large pool of applicants in a short span of time is difficult. So we want to hire people from this group with good skills, and this assessment platforms are good enablers. We can customize our assessments the way we want, based on the skills that we want to assess and based on what the business needs, right? And with the assessment data that they provide us, we can actually slice and dice, and make quicker decisions on what we want and what we don't want, right? And this is a good segue into the assessments. Actually, a good segue into how the candidate will perform once he or she gets into the business, right? And creates a more predictable hiring pattern and a performance pattern for these people. The third is the platforms, by standardizing the process, completely eliminates subjectivity of assessment, right? I mean, given how people, and somebody was talking about interviewing skills, for example, right? Not everybody goes through that, in such a bulk scenario. So removing that bias and error in judgment to a large extent is only possible through technology, and these platforms help us there. Last but not the least is consistent experience for the candidates and stakeholders, keeping in mind that we need to consistently enhance conversions, eliminate leakages of the pipeline, and at the same time provide a very pleasant experience to candidates as well as our internal stakeholders. I think the technology-driven approach is a must and a need of our. I'll take a pause here and see if there's anybody who has additional comments.
So anybody has anything to add? Because I would want to add something here. So Hemant, when we speak of the four elements that you've just segmented for us when it comes to the right usage of technical platforms, I think, as I spoke of in the very beginning, innovation and technological innovation specifically is one of the very important elements that drives the entire, strategizing and implementation of the entire drive. So the candidate experience specifically that you spoke of, I will move to Rinku about this. And we want to know that, as Hemant mentioned, Rinku, that it is an entire central component of a hiring process where a person applies for a job, passes through the screening process, and finally gets selected through the final interview process. Now, creating a hiring process that takes the candidate's experience into a consideration can be a very useful competitive advantage and can actually help you attract the right talent for your organization and, maybe select the person who fulfills your business needs. Tell me, how do you think, you or, these platforms specifically offer great technical assistant experience to candidates? And if do you think of a platform that you use or, that creates an impact on the candidates and the goodwill of the company?
Sure. So, of course, I have used a lot of tools in my career, right, for different in different companies. But personally speaking, I feel that it's a very one-sided interrogation, right? It puts a lot of, psychological strain on the candidate. And, you may miss out on some of the very good potential candidates just because, one particular problem statement cannot really gauge their all competencies, right? So personally speaking, I think it's a very one-sided approach to look at it. While we understand that, it is scalable when you look at, big numbers. But yeah, I mean, if you look at, when you give a person the statement, right, or a problem, he's sitting at his home and trying to solve. So, when the coding is going to get reviewed by the interview panels, they're just going to look at the quality of the code. So what is going to get missed out there is the approach again, what was the thought process when the person put in that, right? So it is again, some of the skill set you can teach, as long as the person's fundamentals, basics are very strong, right? But, in the problem statement, maybe, because there is in that straining procedure, the person is so strained that, he may end up making mistakes, right? So how do you overcome those challenges, right? Because you may miss out on some of the very potential or some good employees who can be the potential fit for your company. So as in Globant, what we have done is that, we started a program called Code Realm. So in Code Realm, what we did, of course, we wanted to also solve the problem of hiring in bulk, right? So it should be able to solve, at least we should be able to evaluate people in 100, 200 in one go, right? So we started the program with a training. We gave training for 1 hour on a complex topic. And then the people who attended that training were supposed to code with the trainer. And after the training, right, they were assessed on that, so whatever, concepts they picked up from the training, they had to use those concepts and, do that assessment. And after that exercise, right, it's a half day process. And after that, we put the candidate and, we put them in a group discussion. So that, and with unknown people, with mixed seniorities. And after that, we can evaluate a lot of things from the entire exercise. One, that you obviously know, again, as I said, that aptitude is equally important. The ownership, because, the moment you know how the person has picked up from training, you would be able to assess the person fast learning abilities. And when a person is working in the team, how can he work with others? So that is again one skill which get assessed, right? So and this has given a very, very good experience to the candidates, because I have been using a lot of tools, and we have to really, really follow through. People don't do that assessment when they have to do it offline, but that when the moment the panels become part of it, and you make it very, very interesting for them, so they feel that, okay, if this is the kind of level that the evaluation the company is doing, the culture, the work would be very, very interesting. So we have got some of the amazing comments after this code realm, and that is something which we are continuing, and it has helped. So as I am not, denying that, we definitely need the assessment tool, but the human element is something is missing today. And I really wish that some of you guys or some of the big assessment companies can get that human element in, because no technology can overpower the human touch, right? So the experience what you can give to people. So, and all you have to think is that, how you can scale, keeping the human touch impact is going to be the key.
All right, thanks, Rinku, for that. And the human touch that we're talking about, no matter how technologically advanced we become, the decision making would still lie within us. And I think that is exactly where that human connection that you're talking about is established and is required.
Yes.
So I think the final call for anything, be it an assessment platform or maybe just automating any process and finally pulling out the final results from, the final yes or a no or final breakthrough will only happen from a human being, and whose relativity in terms of both the emotional quotient as well as the requirement, I should say, is matching. So I would want to move to Padmini now. Padmini, tell me that we were talking about the conversion ratio, right? And Rinku, you also spoke of candidates not willing to come for the interviews offline or online, both. So not only Padmini, but this question is open to everyone. What is the kind of conversion ratio that you've seen with these platforms these days? So Padmini, I would want to answer this first.
I'd like to take this question and break this into two pieces. When we're talking to a campus hire, the willingness and the willingness to take an online test is much higher. And I'd actually like to go back a few years when we used to go to campuses and administer the tests and complete those tests on the same day, announce the results. We would do the correction there itself, announce the results, and do the interviews, which would go on till late in the night. Cut to today, we are doing this completely from the comfort of our offices. We are able to proctor them from where we are. We are able to monitor what they're doing, get those results. And like Hemant said, we have a footprint of all their assessments, their aptitude, all the intelligence around which campus has worked the best for us. The conversions from those campuses have worked the best for us, and we're able to upload everything into an application, which is going to take this entire footprint till the employee leaves our organization. So there is one piece which has moved from offline to online. and campuses are loving it because they don't necessarily have to fight for day slots. They don't have to reveal who else is on the campus. The candidates don't have to necessarily be on campus to participate in any of these campus drives. So there is a lot of comfort in that. The touch and feel, we are talking of today's generation, which is all on mobile and apps. To them, it does not matter whether you're conducting the interview through a mobile or you're conducting an interview through a laptop. They are very happy participating in any of these drives from wherever they are. So I don't completely agree with Rinku that the touch and feel has to be important. Now, let me take it to the laterals. The laterals are a lot in today's world where there is a war of talent. They have multiple job opportunities. They have multiple offers. They're not necessarily bothered that they've resigned and they're on a break. They will find a job before the break is over. And this is a lot that we're trying to administer online tests. They don't give they don't care about that. They want to reach the final stage even before everything else is done. They don't want to spend the time in front of a computer sitting and coding and for someone else to assess it. They want to get to the negotiation table as quickly as possible to tell us that, look, I have an offer. What are you going to give me? I have got this offer from these three organizations. What can you give me in case you want to hire me? And I'm not really going to take all these tests. So the conversion ratio in campus freshers or people who are relatively freshers is much higher in terms of wanting to take online tests, wanting to, they come prepared for those tests. They have probably done some research on what kind of testing platforms are we using. So even before we tell them you have to take a test from this platform, they know we have done it, we're using it. But with the laterals, that's a different story. To get them to come for a test is itself a challenge. And then conversion from there, if we schedule 100 people, we'll get about 10 or 12 willing to take the test. They may even crack it, but the interest levels are much lower. So that's my own experience over here as far as online testing platforms are concerned and their conversions are concerned.
So, Padmini, when we just see when the stats that you've just mentioned, that if you're inviting 100 people, only 10 to 12 people are turning. Tell me, just as a ratio, if I would want to know, does this also happen that, so campuses, you mentioned that people turn up because that is exactly what they want to do. They want to get a job. But with laterals, it's a different story because they might want to, they might not want to join. Also, they might have multiple offers at hands to actually see through. Tell me, is there a way that you try to figure out, and if you've identified if this is happening more with the online process and virtually when we're trying to hire them, or this used to still happen when you used to hire people offline?
When we used to hire people offline, we would not necessarily tell them that there is going to be a written test when you come in here. We would tell them that we would schedule a lot of candidates. Once they came in, we would probably just give them a short test for them to do, make them sit in labs. And now that they are there, they would take the test. But if I were to tell them beforehand that we are going to put in a test that is, that is going to be administered when you come in for an interview with us, there would be a drop in numbers for sure. And I would not say a few years ago this was really the phenomena. A few years ago, we still managed to get people, a reasonable number of people. The interview no-show or the interview no-show is a part of your life as a recruiter. But the percentage of interview no-shows vary the moment you tell them there's an online test or there is an offline test when you come in. Earlier, it was not so bad, but right now, with an online assessment, we've done this many times when we started hiring in GlobalLogic using a platform 2 years ago. We found it was not so difficult, but we've decided to not necessarily use a testing platform, an assessment platform when we're doing bulk hiring. It can be done where we probably do not have the technical expertise to grill a person completely, but we are not using it for laterals. For campuses, yes, not for laterals.
All right. I would want to know what other, our co-panelists hear, think about this entire, question, the conversation Padmini and I had. Anything that you would want to add, Hemant, Rinku, Pankaj, any inputs that you would want to
So
actually?
I completely agree with what Padmini mentioned, that, what example also I gave was more for the lateral. So I think campus, because, people, want to get into the company, there is a lot of research done much before, and they don't have as many options as we have for the experienced folks. So, like, I have had the same experience where for the, experience less than 2 years, or less than 3 years rather, work for the test, where we give them test and then they still take that up. But for others, there is a lot of follow-up needed, and after that also there is no guarantee that they will clear, because we have seen that sometimes we have used those platforms, they have not cleared, just to do that comparative analysis, that people who have not cleared still cleared the discussions, and people who have cleared still got rejected, right? So I think that is more to do with obviously the kind of evaluation assessments we are creating on the tools. But it has not worked out for the reason, because there is a lot of resistance and too many options available. So why somebody would have to go through that churning, right, when something is available in 1 hour's discussion? So
No, but Rinku, sorry, I'm cutting you in between. When we say that they have multiple options in their hands, and why would they just come for a screening? I think this basic process of setting up a text is become very common across organizations, across verticals these days. It's not just about in the tech domain. It's about, even if you're hiring a writer, you give them a grammar test or something of those sorts, right? So setting up the right standards, this is an industry standard that everybody is apparently following in order to just have that understanding. And as we spoke earlier, that our attention has shifted from the conventional resumes to hiring people with the right competencies. But how do you exactly judge them? Unless and until you actually give them tests, unless and until you have maybe a couple of questions, couple of maybe objectives that you would want to ask them, and define them, maybe a business problem that let's just say you would want to give them, and subjectively just ask their opinion on to how would you solve a certain situation. I think unless and until those things happen, it's really difficult for us even to understand the proper JD. Right? We being from the non-technical background, let's just say, if a person is from the non-technical background, sometimes it's really get difficult to understand the right technicalities that the CTO would want to hire the candidate with. So I think the kind of approach that we are, and I am also trying to understand what is the right approach in case if this is a common thing that the lateral hiring is facing this. You as the recruiters are facing this with the lateral hirings. What is the right kind of solution that we can look at? Do we have to move back to the conventional process that we were using because we are hiring experienced professionals, or we will just stick to the standards that we try to maintain? So, Hemant, Pankaj, anything that you want to add? Yes, Rinku, please go
no,
ahead.
I was just saying that, according to me, I think it is just about how do you conduct those tests, like what Padmini also mentioned, that, we get the guy in, and then, setting the expectations, and, when the panel is along with that person, giving him that comforting feeling that, yes, it is so trying to reduce the number of hours it takes and make it little interesting, engaging enough, so that, it doesn't looks like a test, right? That the person is writing after the engineering,
So
something like
maybe
that.
that interview conversation that you are trying to emphasize, you meant that is more helpful.
Yeah. So I think it has to be done more in the premises. And now, of course, virtual also, where, like, say, if I am interviewing you, so I can be with you and I give you some coding test, and then I say that, okay, you finish in 15 minutes, I come back. And so engaging, right? Because if you leave it on them, it doesn't work.
Right, correct. And indeed, it will only work with the lateral hiring because campus, so you will have to set up the benchmark of
Yeah.
filtration first and then bring them on board even for the final
Correct.
round of interviews and have a face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
So quite agreeing to that. Hemant, Pankaj, anything that you want to add here? Hemant, we cannot hear you. I think you're on mute. No, is it just me who cannot hear Hemant?
No, we can't hear him.
Hemant,
Till
just
the
try and
time
check your audio. Yes, Pankaj.
who joins. No, I guess it's, you asked input in between that, whether we will revert to the older times. I would still maintain that going back to the older times is absolutely going to be impossible. I think Padmini did allude to it that people have got comfortable in terms of doing whatever they have, right? I mean, I think she was talking about campus hiring. I think it's true for almost everything. I mean, even at senior levels, very senior levels, I find it very bemusing to know that people, even if they are 2 kilometers away from my office in Bangalore, they just don't turn up, and they are happy to tell me on the Teams meeting that well, they are just taking it there. So I guess it's something which will bother us. I'm not even sure whether a face-to-face interaction will help in any kind of a joining ratio conversion or whatever it is. So that's part number one. I think the other second part of the thing, and that's a different probably lay on it, that there are so many options available to people, right? I mean, it's now become very, very common for, all of us have read about it, moonlighting, people working for three different jobs at the same time. I think at some point of time, the government would probably step in and, even look at redoing some of the rules, because something like this is very common in some of the countries overseas. I mean, I am allowed to work legally into 2 or 3 or 4 separate jobs. Obviously, the contracts are different. So I think some of the conversations, some of the the innovations will come even from legal side of it. And I am sure that with whatever I'm seeing of the current government, they are becoming more and more strengthened in their resolve to do certain or relook at certain things. I also feel that in the BPO industry or at IT, we don't face this so much, but I think we are in for minimum wages revisions, which will happen much more often now, and that is going to put in a little bit more of a pressure on the side of from the corporate side, because of the fact that we'll be mandated to do certain things. And does it mean that it will have an impact on the thing? And that's the reason I brought this point up, that yes, it is going to impact rates across in terms of the BPO industry also, as these things become higher and higher from a minimum wages angle, especially in tier 3 cities. People do have options. A lot of people are going back to doing certain things in a freelancing way. So I think we'll have to put our act together to find out as to what we are going to make it more exciting, whether it is lifestyle changes, whether it is giving, like I was talking to somebody the other day who has just joined a startup, and fairly well-known startup, because today's startup is that you raise money and then come on TV and put it on IPL, right? So I'm talking about one of such startups, which is very interestingly has given, they have a HR new policies which they have come up with, and I thought 2 of them were very, very interesting. One of them is a pet adoption leave. I have heard of every kind of a leave, but I never heard of a pet adoption leave, which is now the employees can take. Number one. Number two is that you are allowed at any point of the time, whenever you join, X number of days rejuvenation leave. So I'm still trying to figure out what that means for overall thing, but yeah, it's interesting. So just a different twist to the entire thing.
I think that has more to do with the employability and the employee well-being when we think of, because I'm sure the pandemic has out taught us to take care of each other, and I'm sure organizations are putting in the efforts to to make maybe put in the right program and bring in the right kind of schemes so that people are at ease when they are trying to work, be it upskilling or be it just putting them at ease of regenerating, as you just mentioned. And that, yes, pet adoption is something that I have also come across very rarely. I think normally the organizations do not offer this. Parental leave is being I think it's going up, is changed, I should say, and that has brought a little different dimension. But pet adoption, that's something very new.
I mean, I'm saying it's a question of new things, which are coming up in terms of it. And since you mentioned about the pandemic and working in the house, I guess, funny thing is, and I think one of the NASSCOM reports covered it, that, everybody in the industry has found out that the productivity of people has gone up if they are working in the house, right? So now people are very wary to figure out wonder as to what they want to do. So, but let's see. I think everybody is also very clear that they need to get back employees to the office, including us. We are trying to figure that out.
Actually, and this is a very a thought process which puts you into a dilemma, that when you go back to the office, there's so much of fuss buzz that you sit there, try and work your head out there. But when you're sitting at home, you're sitting in a very quiet ambience, and normally you tend to take a room, and you have that right workstation set up for you, and try and work, and you try and manage your house chores also. But getting back to office now, we'll have to put our mental frames back to how it was, and back to people, the kind of things that we were missing, the interactions, and those coffee table chats, etc. I think those are add-ons, but still, this has actually put us into a thought process of complete dilemma that whether going back to the office is better, or maybe staying back at home and being with the parents or being with our loved ones and then working it out was better. So yeah, I mean, very well, put across, Pankaj. Hemant is back with us. Hemant, what you would want to add to what we are speaking of?
So I think it will be hybrid going forward as well. I don't think we'll go back to fully being physical in office all 5 days or 6 days. It has to be hybrid. I think there will be certain roles where people will need to turn up more frequently, and depending on the projects that they do or the functions that they belong to or what the customers are asking for. And there will be many roles where you actually, you don't really need to be physically be there unless there's a requirement to meet people or be in a conference room and talk on any particular topic, right? So I think it's going to be hybrid, and different companies will adopt different practices. But from a campus perspective, I do think that probably it's again the technology aspect will have to come into picture. How we bring them up to speed, how do we train them, how do they collaborate in their peer groups, how do they learn from their seniors, and it has to be a mix of both, is in my opinion. But I think, as I said, we're not going back to how it was 2 years ago.
Definitely, no employees would agree to going back to what it was and how it was. I'm pretty sure about it. So now it's time for us to to look at some of the questions that our audience have. I can see one so far, and the question is that how long resource cannibalizations will continue, where candidates holding multiple offers and companies, continuing to entertain this just to fill in their numbers. What is going to be your response? Who's going to answer this?
I can take a shot at it. So I don't think it is going to end. I think we should all be prepared to have more such things.
Yeah.
That's all we have to do, in spite of, we had a recent case where, as we are talking to the end client, the end client received the resume of the individual from 3 different companies, all of them saying that the guy has joined. And all of us then figured it out that the person is indeed existing on our payroll. And the funny thing is that the BGC came all green. So I don't know what is the modus operandi, but I think we have to be clear about it, that such cases will exist. And I think the only thing one can do is to act decisively and swiftly, and make sure that they are thrown out of the organization immediately, considering that they are right now contravening the norms. I'm not saying that we should do it if they were not telling about it, or it was not a free gig, or if they tell us, then it's okay. But this is not. We still don't allow double employment in this country. So I think the short and simple answer is that it will continue.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Padmini, Rinku, Hemant, you want to add anything here?
I think till the time new workforce come into play, all the talks of 50,000, 60,000, 80,000 campus grads coming in and getting trained and coming up to speed to deliver what the lateral hires deliver. I think once that cycle matures, I think till that point, this will continue. We'll have to live with it. From my perspective, somebody has multiple offers and they have good skills. Absolutely, they will get picked up. And this happened in past as well. But not in such volumes, right? It has the current scenario has just aggravated this. But I think this will largely continue. My personal opinion is that probably 8 to 10 months more, and then probably we will see this normalizing.
Thanks, Hemant. I think this is a very subjective question, and nobody knows the timeline for this, and all of us are pretty sure about it. And yes, living with it is something that we'll have to look at it. Audience, do we have any more questions, or we should just move to the conclusion now? We can wait for a couple of minutes and see if you want to ask any more questions. All right. So, while we are waiting for audience to put in their queries, let's talk a little about the kind of technology that is actually backing these technical evaluation platforms, be it AI or in-depth reports that these platforms offer when it comes to hiring candidates. Do you see these innovations helping you with the right set of candidates when you're trying to actually put this into process? Rinku, Hemant, anybody?
So one aspect that it definitely helps is with the current volumes that we are dealing with. Sometimes we do see impersonation happening, and we do see some candidates using unfair practices. Technology definitely helps us alert in those cases, and depending on how we have configured the parameters on which we want to evaluate, and with the the AI proctoring technology that is there, we get that warnings and alerts that this is what is observed for a particular candidate. It helps us take decisions faster and the right decisions, from our perspective. So that's one area definitely helps.
Lovely. So, Rinku, somebody's asking about the code realm plan that you just mentioned. Is it open for outsiders also? You just try to upskill employees in the organization.
Yes, this is the process we follow for some of our
just add some more details, because I think the person wants to know about it.
So maybe that person can write to me, and my ID is rinku.rastogi@globant.com. I can share more details.
Sure. So please write into Rinku in case if you want more details about the program, and I'm sure she's going to help us out there. That's it for the day. I don't think we have any more questions now, as we are moving towards the end. Before we actually wrap up, speakers, I would want you to give us the closing remark for the session. Let's begin with you, Padmini.
Very interesting conversations. Got to hear about a lot of things that Globant is doing, what DXC is doing, and of course Pankaj in his trademark style, gave us some insightful things that happened at Coforge. I think we are in for very, I wouldn't say exciting, I wouldn't say dull, but this is a time that we all are looking at some very unpredictable hiring patterns. COVID has taught us to be very agile. COVID has taught us to be very innovative. COVID has taught us to respect technology, what we probably did not want in the past in terms of assessment platforms. We seem to be wanting to use that, whether it is through interview as a service or on assessment. And hybrid is here to stay. It gives us a lot of flexibility, be it, being able to cook and attend your meetings, or attend to some of your personal things and also attend to your office work. And I guess even candidates are going to be looking forward to that. Getting back to office, like everyone else said, we really don't know. But this is going to be exciting for us as recruitment professionals. And
thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pankaj?
As always, good to interact, good to hear comments. I would say it was interesting to hear from Rinku about the code link thing, which you spoke about, Padmini, in terms of the online versus the offline thing, and of course, Hemant giving us a differential view basis is delivery come TA thing. Always happy to to learn, to hear, and like I said, it was good to have some smiles around in terms of looking at what is happening around in the industry. But I guess the only other comforting thing is that nobody questioned me when I said it was 35 and 40% joining. So good thing is I'm aware, I'm clear now that they are also in the same boat.
No, I think I'm better off than Pankaj.
Advantage of being in Pune, right? Like you said. Okay. Thanks, Sukriti.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Rinku?
Yeah, so like everyone, I think I really enjoyed the session, and it's good to know that we all are sailing in the same boat. Everybody is having the similar challenges, and I think it's good to look at that how they are addressing those challenges, how they are, because obviously some of the panelists have obviously much higher numbers, so how they are dealing with bulk hiring when it comes. I have obviously done that in my cognizant days. So those kind of things also give a lot of perspective to things that how you can still do a balance act, right? Little bit with technology and human touch, combination of two, how you can still survive in this madness. So I think, yeah, there are some takeaways for me for sure.
Thank you so much, Rinku, and I'm sure that all of us have, our set of learnings when it comes to conversations like this. Hemant, we'll move to you.
Lovely session. I think very engaging. Good to interact with all of the leaders on this call. I think I'll just close by saying that the skill shortage or the challenge is for real. The world is looking at us again as a country to bridge that. The onus is on us, and as well as the talent pool, to take the game to the next level. I think that's where it lies today.
Thank you so much, Hemant. Thank you so much, everyone. And now, before we actually wrap this up, I would like to request Shikha Sari, who's the zonal business head for us, to give the vote of thanks, please. Shikha, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Sukriti. It was a very, very good session. I learned a lot from here. Thanks, Rinku, Padmini, Hemant, and Pankaj. Me and Padmini have interacted before this as well. And I am quoting her here, saying that it's very important for us to respect technology. So to address this itself, a lot of conversation that we had around assessments. We've got Speed Hire here, which is one of the solutions which helps for remote assessment solutions. And we can assess candidates in real time environment. We've got an IDE-based application where the candidates can curate and even code and even execute their codes in front of the interviewer. And plus, we've got multi-level testing as well. So it is a purely technology-based testing that we do on this tool. And any one of you who's looking for any sort of support in assessments can reach out to us, of course. And yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of this discussion. It was very, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shikha. Thank you so much, our dear panelists. Thank you for enlightening us with the right details that we are trying to look at and helping each other understand how we're doing and actually implementing and strategizing the entire tech recruitment drive in our organizations. So now technology is pushing every business function to adopt innovative and cost-effective methods, of course, and streamlining and accelerating the entire tech recruitment process. This is the right time to choose the virtual campus recruitment process and transform your organization, as our speakers have mentioned, and move towards the future of tech recruitment in a structural manner. With this, we come to the end of our conversation. It's a wrap for us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. My heartfelt gratitude to our eminent panelists for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. Audience, thank you so much for listening to us. In case you're looking for hiring tech talent from campuses or even otherwise, Speed Hire is your one-stop solution. Please check out the link in the video. This is your host signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.